Hey everyone, and welcome to the Ncast. I'm Guy Weissmantel, your host and Executive Vice President of Marketing here at Ncontracts. In this podcast, our subject matter experts from across the company will be talking with industry thought leaders about relevant topics and trends in compliance and risk management for financial institutions. You'll learn the latest tips and tools to manage risk in this ever-changing environment. Let's get started.
Good afternoon and welcome to this episode of Ncast put on by Ncontracts. My name is Marnie Kaller. I'm Senior Vice President for Partnerships and Industry Outreach. Joining me today is the wonderful Lynn English, Senior Vice President for Risk Management at Lafayette Federal Credit Union, based in Rockville, Maryland. Is that right?
Yes.
883 million in assets. And Lynn has really done great work at Lafayette. We're happy to have her as a customer. And today we're going to talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. How are you today, Lynn?
I am well, thank you. How are
Good.
you?
Good. It's nice to see you, even if it's virtually.
Oh, yes, it's always nice to see you.
We're overdue to see each. We're practically neighbors, so it's kind of fun to see each other on the interwebs. I'm going to get down to business and start asking you a few questions, if that's okay.
Sure, whatever you want to know.
Let's do this. My first one, is there a DEI initiative at your credit union?
No. And the reason for that is that we are one of the most ethnically diverse companies I've ever worked at. And we're also diverse in other parts of the spectrum. For instance, we have people working for us from late teens all the way through the mid 80s, full-time employees. We've got people from all around the world that work at the credit union. We have pretty much both hemispheres, every continent is represented at our credit union. And I'm really not sure how much more diverse we could possibly be. Our senior management team is a 50-50 split between men and women. And three of us are people of color, so we even have diversity at that level, so it's actually pretty remarkable that it is that way because we know that it's not that way everywhere.
Right. We live in the Washington, D.C. area, so we are lucky to have that kind of, that ethnic mix.
Absolutely.
With regard to external outreach, is there anything that you do with regard to your members?
Well, we serve the greater DC metro area already. Maryland, we have branches in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And we have what's considered a community charter in DC. So we're able to extend services there. But we also, when we do the reviews, we realize that we serve a lot of the university communities, which are actually considered low income. Yeah, believe it or not. Well, of course we can believe it. We've all been there, So yeah, it's funny when you start breaking it down how things work out. But what we're going to be doing is getting more intentional with making sure that we're doing what we can to do our part to create financial inclusion. So that regardless of what your socioeconomic makeup is, you'll feel comfortable, banking with Lafayette because we're smaller. We still had that personal touch for a lot of things. Whereas when you get the big credit unions, things get to be a little more, I don't know what's the word I want to use. They get a little more checkbox. You know what I mean? Versus because the metrics get so much more. They become so much more. It's like the more you have, the more you want to have.
Right.
And so it's really easy to lose sight of why you started doing this in the first place. And where your numbers, outweigh the service factor. And we have a really heavy emphasis on the balance between making sure, yes, you have to make the numbers. You have to be able to function as a business. But you also want to be able to meet people where their needs are, regardless. So it's always about striking that balance.
So with that external outreach, with that external outreach, is there a way to measure success?
Well, I don't know if I say lucky me or not, but one of the taskings that I have right now is to actually define what financial inclusion is going to look like for our credit union. And with that definition is going to come, how do we measure whether or not we've done it? Whether or not we're successful at the undertaking. So it's going to take more minds than mine to be able to define what success is going to be. But I mean, it's all going to be numbers driven. Your MSA data, looking at the zip codes where it's clearly defined where people are underserved. Do you have a foothold in that market? And it's going to probably take more intentional work to develop that market than the organic growth we see, like where our headquarters is. That's a very heavy portion of our organic membership base. And we do a lot of indirect lending. So people from all over the country, if they can
Right.
come to us, for certain products and services, and it's not about where you live. It's about whether or not you qualify for the product you're asking for. So there's never any emphasis in that regard. Never has been, because credit unions, that's not our model to begin
Right.
with. So we don't usually fall into the trap of that.
To reaching out to those college communities that are considered low income, do you offer a personal financial management software, like an app that plugs in to their checking account that helps them budget their money going in and out?
Not yet, but that's one of the things that we're looking for, is how do we grab that group of people that sits between teenager and adult to help them to do those services. So what's actually happening with our business development team is they're doing a lot of webcasts such as this, or just webinars where they're teaching financial literacy. And part of developing, an actual financial inclusion dedicated program will be adding on components like that. It's like, okay, we can give people all the education we want, but if we're also not giving them tools,
Yeah.
it doesn't you can't, if you don't put it into practice, you're going to lose it. I can tell you something and you'll receive it. I can teach you something,
Right.
and maybe you'll memorize it. But if I help you to actually
Mhm.
use it, that's where you retain the information. It's
Right.
literally in the implementation of it where you physically get to do that thing that we've been discussing at that high level. So one of the things that we're doing in the next 12 months is we're going to be going through a core conversion. And that
I am
core
so sorry.
conversion,
So
you know
sorry.
what? I can't even be mad about it. It's always a lot of work when you undergo a core conversion or a major product change. But when you know what the reward is going to be,
Mm, right.
the pain's worth it. We're all going to have extended hours, things like that. Scrubbing data, that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
this is all to get us to a place where an app like you asked about
Yeah.
can be utilized through our core. Because right now we can't do that. It would be a disaster, literally.
Right.
So moving to a more sophisticated core that requires far less work to add on products to it. That's the step we're
Mhm.
taking to be able to really blossom,
That's great.
for the younger generations, for all the technology and people, they make the mistake of using the word technology and youth in the same sentence far too much. I'm just going to put that out there right now. That's not equality, because I'm in the middle of life
That's right.
and I can troubleshoot with the best of them. Don't get me wrong.
I'm
I
working
don't
on you
like I
every
don't
day.
like getting new technology because that means I have to change what I was doing before,
Mhm.
but I adapt to it very well. And
Right.
most people do if you give them the opportunity. And a lot of people will they'll exclude age, they'll
Mhm.
exclude gender, they'll exclude different ethnic groups, all based on preconceived notions. And
Yes.
that's been the kiss of death for all of us for how long has this country been in effect, right?
Mhm.
And it impacts so many things because I this is funny. I remember a story from the composer and producer megastar Quincy Jones.
Okay.
He was asked to compose a piece, and there was a party who said, he can't do that. What does a Negro know about composing music?
Mm.
Okay, everybody in the world has heard compositions by Quincy Jones.
Right.
And I thought, wow, what an ignorant thing to say, right? And it's all based on a preconceived notion or a bias. And we all have them. for whatever reason. They're, but who we grew up with, where we grew up,
Mhm.
what our parents were exposed to, those kinds of things, stories at our friend's house. You go, ooh, ooh, it's like, okay, I'm going home now. Mom, come get me, kind of thing. Or it's like you're sitting at somebody's grandfather's knee because they've got such great stories and you had no idea, right? So they opened up another part of the world to you. But that happens in everything we do. And it especially happens in the business world and the banking world. That's why they had to create regulations that tell us don't do this, don't do that, because it was exclusionary,
Yeah.
and people weren't able to have because somebody thought they shouldn't. It's like, who am I to tell you you shouldn't be able to do this? I'm no one in the greater scheme of things, and
Mhm.
neither is anybody else. I don't care what
Right.
your title is. I don't care what you do for a living. What
Right.
right do you have to tell the person standing next to you that they can't have the same opportunity that you have? It's kind of crappy when you,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's the appropriate PC word of the
No,
day.
it totally is.
It's crappy because I had more
Mhm.
colorful words I could have used. But it's just crappy in general because
Yeah.
it makes people feel bad, and anything that makes somebody feel bad is bad. And so being able to open your doors a little bit wider so more people can come in, there's nothing wrong with that. And
Right.
sometimes you run up against fear for that. It's like, well, if I let them in, what's there going to be left for me?
Mhm.
There's always enough of everything for everyone. That's the great thing about being a human being. Just
Mhm.
when you think you've reached your limit, you find out that, oh, if you just take one more step, there's so much more. But that's in everything. When we think, no, no, we don't want to offer all this because then there won't be enough left for us. And yet nobody starves
Yeah.
unless you specifically engineer it so that they will. If you throw the doors wide open, everyone eats. And that's as it should be. So we're making baby steps towards getting there.
I think it's great. I know that when you were a little girl, you probably did not say, "When I grow up, I want to work in the banking industry." I'm guessing that didn't happen.
That was never part of my conversation.
Um,
Um,
I
I
actually don't know that many people who have lived in Alaska, but
oh, that was
can
great.
can you talk a little bit about your career path and how you have been impacted by social restrictions?
Sure. I literally lucked into banking. I was going to school and I was working part-time and suddenly found myself pregnant with my third son, who was not planned, not expected, and being in Alaska was going to be very expensive. So it's like, hmm. And doing both those things, my two older sons were like, "We don't see you now, so you're going to have to choose. You stay in school, or you have a baby. Which one are you doing? But you need to pick because we're not going to allow you to do both." I'm like, "Well, that was a very grown up thing to say, and I appreciate your feedback." I guess I'm going to go to work full time because I'm having this baby. You know what I mean? So it's like, go to work full time, push school to the side. And a girl that I was working with, she says, "Oh, the credit union's hiring. Why don't you come and work there? I'm going to start there in like 2 weeks." She says, "They're still hiring." So on a whim, I put in an application. It was the world's worst teller. Let me just be honest. I was the world's worst teller. Well, and part of it was the stress of being pregnant.
Mm,
Because back in the day, your cashier, I think it weighed like 500 pounds, and so it was a physical problem for me.
mm,
And so I was always distracted by the side effects of the physical effects. And it came to a point where the doctor was like, "You need another job or I'm sending you home." So they did a internal transfer to the call center. I used to work in a call center when I was a teenager for Chilton Research Services. Remember they used to put out those manuals, those how-to manuals? Well, they were also a market research firm.
You've got the
And
voice for it, that's for darn sure.
people always thought I was so much older than I was. I was like
Mm.
16 years old, but they always thought I was grown. I got hit on all the time. It was hilarious. And I'd be like, "You're talking to a kid, right?" And they're like, "I'm sorry." It's like, It's okay. Don't make assumptions." But because I had that call center experience, the call center manager was she was very excited to have me because she was down staff and she needed people. She was like, "The only thing is, do you want to work full time?" Of course I do. Of course. And when I went, she says, "I'm taking a chance on you." I was like, "I understand." I said, "But I guarantee you'll be very happy you did." She's like, "I'm going to hold you to it." We left there in 2000. We still send each other Christmas cards every year because she's like, man, that was one of the best decisions I ever made. Because when I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm home. I'm home. I never thought I would work in banking at all. But when I got to the call center, I realized I guess I should be in banking because the information it was just absorbing it like a sponge. You know, didn't need a lot of training, understood what was happening, could make those logical connections, could help other people, and so I ended up moving up really quickly because of just being an information junkie. You see my background. I want to go to that library. It's a real library in Argentina. I would love to just spend a week there. I'd probably just be a dust bunny on the floor after being there for so long because it's gorgeous, but I'm a word junkie. So I
Now,
would just
as
absorb.
you moved up the ranks, did you
Mhm.
start seeing any social impacts?
Well, it's interesting because when you first start, you see a lot of people that look just like you,
Mm,
entry level, right? You see a lot of people that look like you. You see a couple of people in management, but as you move up and up and up, you start to see less of you. And it was like, okay. So for me, seeing less of me caused a drive because working in a call center, most people came to work in khakis and a polo shirt, kind of thing. I came to work in suits and dresses. And so one day, one of my coworkers says, "Why do you always get dressed up to come to work?" I said, "I'm not dressed up. I'm dressed for work.
mhm.
And anybody walking through that door needs to mistake me for the one in charge. That's just how I walk through my life. You're going to mistake me for the boss. You might be wrong, but it's only a matter of time." That's my mindset because I had a fiercely independent grandmother, um, a rather fierce mom. Although she had a marshmallow heart, she was tough on me, and I'm not sure why she was so tough on me because she wasn't that tough on my siblings, but she was with me.
Hmm.
And it was always, hey, be careful how you do this. Make sure you do that. Never let anybody say this to you. Never let anybody treat you this way. It was always those kinds of things. Even though she didn't necessarily mirror it in her own life, but that was the messaging she always gave to me. So it was like, okay. So I walked through the world with that as my mantle. And it's like, I understand I'm not your average person, little black girl with red hair and freckles living in West Philadelphia in the 70s and 80s was fighting words. Let's be honest, because
Right.
among my own people, I was an anomaly. They didn't think black people had red hair because they'd never seen it.
Mhm.
They swore black people didn't have freckles because they didn't know anybody who had them. And I fell out of my mother talking like this. So that was definitely a problem because I didn't sound street to them. And because I didn't sound street, they made assumptions about me that made them angry.
Mm.
And it wasn't because I did anything, because I didn't. Because the way I am now was the way I was then. Everybody was cool with me unless you gave me a reason not to be. But
I could
they
see
would
that.
have yeah, but because it's everybody starts at even. You either gain points or lose them. It's up to you. But that's not always what you're given when you move through the world because not everybody feels that way.
Right.
Sometimes you walk in literally in the negative and with a target on your back. And I experienced that in my career. And what made it so bad was that I experienced it from someone with my own color.
Mm.
And that made it worse. It's like, wait, shouldn't you be trying to pull me to where you are and not stepping on me? And that is upsetting to me. Yeah, 'cause you don't have to like me. I don't like everyone. I don't expect everyone to like me, but I expect you to respect the job I'm there to do,
Right.
and your personal feelings should not ever enter into it. But yet you find that every day. And for some people, it's
Absolutely.
literally just the fact that you're different from them. Just the fact that you're different. And it's like that's a sad mentality to have. Just because you're different, people will look at you as less than. And because it happens literally in every aspect of the world, you have to make concerted efforts when you're in certain environments like your working life
Mhm.
to make sure that one, you're not the person perpetuating it. Because it's really easy to slide
Right.
into bad habits, especially depending on who you're exposed to. And for me, it was like a personal mantra is I expect with every interaction that I leave you better than I found you, because that means that
Um,
I can go home and sleep at night.
mhm.
I did what I was supposed to do as a human being. You
I
know,
love that.
I helped you in some way, even if it was just something stupid I said to you and you walked away and you chuckled about it. Mission accomplished. We're good.
Here's this kind of leads me to the next question.
Oh, okay.
If you could have pursued your career path and the same obstacles, would you have handled them differently?
Yes. In some cases, I would have been way more aggressive
Mm.
because, also with the messaging that I got from my mom was don't let your mouth get you in trouble. That was a big one because I
I
started
think I
working
got
at
the same
16.
piece of advice, Lynn.
I have no doubt. From the conversations that we've had, I have no doubt you were given that same messaging. And it literally was that. It was don't let your mouth get you in trouble. And there were times when I could have said more and I didn't. And there are times when, you said too much and you can't take it back. But as long as you own your crap, own your foolishness,
Mm.
own your own nonsense, nobody can really fault you. The problem comes in when you're spewing that nonsense, you're harming others, and you don't take responsibility for it.
That's right.
That's when it becomes a problem, or when you do it for gain, and we've got far too much of that that's occurring in the world right now, that people are willing to they're willing to be vile very specifically, and it's all for profit or gain.
Mm.
And it just creates a very ugly atmosphere, and people don't feel safe in that environment. I mean, one of the reasons why I was available to come to work at Lafayette was because I felt like I was in a toxic work environment with a previous employer, and that's not me.
Right.
And some of it was racially driven. I'm going to be honest, it was. Some of it was racially driven. Some of it was just a good old fashioned bully, um, and just people that just really, I think, were out of their depth. But the effect was still the same. It created a toxic work environment,
Mm.
and I was like, I'm done with that. I don't want that in my life. It has a negative impact in ways that people don't always expect. For me, it was making me physically sick.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't want that.
Mm, right.
And so when I came to Lafayette, one of the things I talked about with my boss after I had the job, is I said, well, okay, I've been here for a minute or two. Let's have a real discussion, because he wanted to have a real discussion, and he wanted to know why I was available to come to Lafayette. And
Hmm.
I told him, I was honest. I told him because
Yeah.
he asked. And I told him, and he was like, "Hmm, that's interesting." He says, "Well, I'm glad that you left there because that meant you were available to come here." And so I said, "My work environment is my second home. I don't have discord in my house. I'm not going to have discord in this house either,
Hmm.
because I've been in that environment and it's not good for anyone in the house. And if you don't keep track of it, people get hurt and they may not even know why they were hurt, and evil begets evil for me.
Yeah, and the hurt perpetuates more
It
hurt.
does.
And
It
the
spreads like
cycle happens.
wildfire.
Yeah, it really does. It's so unfortunate. We're
Exactly.
almost out of time, but I'm going to ask you one more question.
Sure, you can ask anything that you like.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to say I really appreciated like the insights of your own personal experience. I think that's really helpful for everybody to hear. My last question is, what words of advice do you have for financial institutions just starting out? Or I also would say, what words of advice would you give a young person of color just starting out?
What Interestingly enough, I get asked questions at conferences, and a lot of
Hmm.
the side conversations, they'll be like, "How do I get to where you are?
Mm,
What's the secret?" And really, the secret is to set that personal goal for yourself that nobody's going to be better at what you do than you. No one should be able to tell you how to do your job, right? So, in always being the best version of yourself that you can be, it actually speaks for you. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything, and don't be afraid to turn up your light. A lot of people are afraid to shine,
I like that.
and unfortunately that fear holds them back from the things that they really want. You can't be afraid to just shine, and it's not arrogance, it's not bravado, it's not any of those things. It's a, we say light metaphorically, of course, but it's a vibe that comes off of you that draws people to you.
I
They
completely
want to
agree with
be in your company,
you.
and when you shine your light on someone else, you never know who you're lifting out of the dark. You never know. And for me, being a compliance person and a member service person, interesting mix. They often are in conflict with each other, but member service was my first specialty. It's all about helping people to be more, to do more, to be better, to do better. And if you're doing compliance and that's not how you view it, you might want to sit back and reassess,
Mhm.
because we are the bridge to success for the entire organization. No matter how long you've been doing it, that's still your job.
Mhm.
And y- the people that you are there to serve, and I'm sorry, but a compliance officer is a purely service role. The people that you are there to serve must trust you. They must trust you. And sometimes you have to work a little harder for it. Sometimes you don't. You never know until you're where in that place, right? Some days you work a little hard, sometimes you don't. When I got to Lafayette, I had to work hard for it because they'd had some less than positive experiences,
Mm.
and they just didn't know what they were getting. And I literally went and talked to every person in the credit union, told them about me, my background, what my goal was, and what I was there to do for them. And that literally they were my members now.
That's great. Oh,
They're serving the others, but they're my members. And
yes.
so if they don't feel like they're getting the service that they deserve or expect, they have to call me out on it,
Mhm.
which means I have to do better, means I have to turn that light up just a little bit more. Because if they feel like they're not getting what they need, it means that I'm not doing it. So it and I really found out whether or not I was successful at it during a recent health incident. I was out of work for almost actually it was 9 full months.
Yep.
I was away from the office. And when I came back, the reactions of my coworkers was overwhelming for me, because there were a lot of tears. Oh my goodness. A lot of tears. I'm getting a little misty thinking about it. There were a lot of tears, and it was because they said when I was gone, something was missing.
Oh.
Wh- what better testimony of your
Mhm.
effectiveness than that? And I don't think I could be the compliance officer that I am if I hadn't gone through those difficulties early in my career,
Mhm.
where people were trying to hold me back, and it forced me to always turn my light up a little bit more, just a little bit more. Do they see it yet? I don't know if they see it yet, because I want that light to be so bright that they don't see the color of my skin. They don't see that I'm a girl. They just see what I'm there to offer.
Mm.
It works more often than it doesn't,
Yes.
and I'll take it.
So will I. I love your light. I'm so glad that you came on with today's episode of
Me
Ncast.
too. It's so
I,
good to see you
it's
again.
so good to see you too. I look forward to us getting together and having a meal when all of this hullabaloo is over behind us.
Right?
Um, but I really enjoyed your insights. I'm sure everybody who's listening to today's Ncast really appreciated it too.
Oh, I hope so.
Lynn, thank you. Thank you for shining your light on us.
You're very welcome anytime.
All
Hey, and what I give, I get back. So,
right, on.
if people aren't used to interacting with you, they're in for a treat. So,
That's right. Thanks, Lynn.
Hey everyone, that wraps up another great episode of the Ncast, where we are able to talk with people on the front lines of risk and compliance across the financial services industry. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a review. And if you're not subscribed yet, we invite you to do so on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.